everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be doing a personal Q&A. Over on my Instagram I asked you guys to send in some questions to either get to know me, or if you wanted to know any of my deep dark secrets or any burning questions that you might have about me. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please make sure that you do. I love to do Q&As. I think it helps to build a connection between you and I and to get to know each other a little bit better. So I'm just going to be scrolling through the questions and I'm going to be answering them as best and as honestly as I can. So let's jump into the video. So the first question says, any best light bulb moments on your finance journey? So my finance journey really did start back in January of the year 2020, so January of last year. And my partner and I, we had just bought our first home. I was still in credit card debt. I still owed my parents money for the car that I bought off them. And I think that the best light bulb moment that the epiphany that came to me in January of 2020 was about investing. I was listening to a podcast called She's on the Money. And while my partner and I, so Lewis and I, had been talking about money and investing and all that kind of stuff for like a year or two before we actually bought the house, I think coming from an external person and someone like just listening, I obviously was listening to him, but like listening from a professional about the importance of investing and the importance of your money. I think that listening and hearing about investing was really the biggest light bulb moment for me, and knowing what it can actually do to my future wealth and to my financial security as well. Like I only had the assumption that investing was for really rich people, and that's obviously not true. So learning about that and understanding investing was had a huge impact on my savings and budgeting. Next question is, who do you like to watch on YouTube, finance related or not? So I watch some financial YouTube videos from Family Finance and from Invest with Queenie. I'm not a huge finance YouTuber, like a YouTube watcher. I really do like those lifestyle YouTubers, especially Brittany Lee Saunders, who doesn't upload videos anymore, but she's probably the biggest or my most watched YouTuber. Everyone else I kind of just like scroll through and have a look, but I don't dedicate myself purely to any one financial YouTuber. So next one is, how do you keep accountable or stick to your budgets? So I'm pretty frugal. I'm not a tight ass, I wouldn't say. I definitely want to understand where my money is going, and for me personally, keeping accountable and sticking to my budget is really important because it really reduces financial stress. I hate when that time comes in the fortnight or your pay period where you want to buy something but you don't have enough money in the account. I think for me that gives me so much anxiety and thinking that I'm going to get into debt. Even though I don't own a credit card anymore, I just find that writing everything down as soon as I get paid and doing a zero-based budget is the best way for myself to be accountable. That way I know exactly where all of my dollars are going, and I set myself a certain amount of splurge, and that's all that I'm allowed. And how I base my splurge is off whether basically we are in lockdown or not. So when we are in lockdown, I give myself 150, and that will basically be for coffees, muffins, cupcakes, takeaway, and that's pretty much it. So $150 on food basically. And then when we're not in lockdown, I'll allocate myself $250 because we'll go out for dinners, we'll go out for drinks, we'll buy alcohol, all that kind of stuff. So I really think that writing stuff down helps me because I'm a rote learner. And I think getting into that habit of allocating funds every single pay as soon as you get paid really helps too. Because if you leave it after a couple of days once you get paid, you'll either forget about it or you can't be bothered, and then you'll just keep spending all of your money. Next question, did you get any financial help from your family for your house deposit? Straight answer, nope. Lewis and I both didn't get any money from our families for the house deposit. Neither of us would have taken it anyway because it's not our money, it's their money, and we would much rather our family spend their own earned money on themselves. Next one, what did your house cost? How much deposit did you have and what fees were involved? So this is a 3-step question, so I'll answer the first step first. So what did your house cost? So we paid $573,000 for our unit. So we didn't buy a house. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit. how much deposit did you have? So we actually did have 20% deposit. However, because of all the fees and because we wanted to fix up the house that we purchased, we decided to go with a 10% deposit, purely because if we were to use the 20%, we would have absolutely nothing left over for, you know, door handles, new flooring, paint, conveyancing fees, building and pests. We would have had no money left over for that. And unfortunately, those are some fees that a lot of people forget about. So while, yeah, it was fantastic to be able to potentially put down 20% for our house, we thought that it would be smarter for us to keep that 10% just in case anything happened. So more of an emergency fund or a buffer, because when you move into the house, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, it could be 2 days later that your hot water thing, whatever it's called, breaks and you need a new one, and those are a couple of $1,000s. And if you don't have that kind of emergency fund, well, then you're putting yourself into debt, because you're most likely going to be putting those kinds of things on a credit card. So yeah, we did have a 10% deposit, and we were more than happy to pay for the lender's mortgage insurance just because it wasn't too much more. Over the lifetime of the loan, yes, it will be a fair bit of money, but for us and our own sanity, and especially moving fees and rental cleaning fees, we needed all that kind of stuff too. So going into the next part of the question was what fees were involved. So conveyancing fees, I think we paid like $3,500 for ours, roughly, I can't remember. Building and pests was a couple of hundred. Renting trucks and renting cars to actually move into our home. Cleaning fees for our old rental property was a couple of hundred. And I think a lot of people forget those kinds of fees when they think about buying a house. They think that the house, okay, well, it's for $600,000, I'm going to need $60,000 for my house deposit, but then they forget about all the other fees that come with that. So that's a really important thing to remember, that if you are purchasing a home, yes, you need to have your deposit, but you also need to have a certain amount of money set aside to pay for all the other fees like conveyancing, building and pest, any other building kind of inspection that you want to have. Was your house deposit 50-50 between you and your partner? Straight out, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't 50-50 between myself and Lewis. We had huge discussions for around a year or a year and a half before we actually purchased our home, and we decided that if we were to wait for the 50-50 deposit, it was going to be another 2 years, and we basically didn't want to wait that long. Okay, so next question, where overseas would be the first place you want to go? Probably New Zealand. So if the borders open up in Australia, Lewis and I will most likely go over to New Zealand to see his family and maybe stay for a couple of weeks, explore New Zealand a little bit. I've only ever been there once, and it was for about a 2-week period. Other than that, other than New Zealand, I really want to go back to Bali. Bali was beautiful. You get so much for your money, and the people over there are absolutely beautiful and so nice. Otherwise, in Europe, I would really love to go to Spain. I haven't had the chance to get over to Spain yet, even though I have been to Europe twice. But yeah, if I was to go anywhere like further overseas, it would be Spain. So do you want kids in the future? About a year ago, I would have said absolutely no way. Even though yes, I am a teacher, and I feel like there's a perception with teachers that we love children, and yeah, I like kids, but I enjoy mostly working with them. So I enjoy working with them and educating them and seeing how fantastically, I don't even think that's a word, how big we can grow their minds. But having kids of my own and being pregnant and going through that whole process is something that's really scary for me, and it's not something that I would ever just do lightly. Lewis and I also want to do a fair few things before if we ever decide to have children, like go overseas, maybe live somewhere for a little bit of like a period of time before we settle down. We also don't believe that our house is big enough to have children just yet, because obviously they need a lot of space. They make a mess, and we own a unit, which is beautiful, and we absolutely love this place. But to have a family, we think that we would need something a little bit bigger, which then we would need to save up more money. We also really want a fair bit of financial security as well, because one of us won't be working full-time for a very long time, and it would most likely be me, I guess. And then when I would go back to work, it wouldn't be most likely in a full-time capacity anyway. I guess that's also why I'm kind of pursuing YouTube and Instagram and all this sort of stuff on the side, because it's a business that I can build and grow from home rather than actually having to go into another workplace. So yeah, that's also another reason why I'm starting YouTube as well, for yes, the side income, but also potentially grow this enough that it can take over most of my full-time income. So yes, we do see children in the future, but not just yet. So next question. How do you handle friendships, family relationships that don't align with your money goals? So probably like in my early 20s, maybe like 21 to 25, I didn't handle it very well. I kind of had FOMO when I would spend money on a credit card that I didn't even have, just to be able to keep up with the Joneses and keep up that appearance of, yeah, I could own all this beautiful makeup and all these beautiful clothes, even though it didn't give me any sort of kind of satisfaction, and it didn't mean that my friends liked me any more or any less. It just kind of made me look like that I had the money to afford these things when I definitely didn't. However, now if I can't afford to do something, I will still try and go. So there have been a few times when my friends, we've gone out for either, you know, like brunch or dinner or something like that. And if it's for brunch, I would have breakfast at home, and then I would still go to the event, or I'd still go to the restaurant, but instead of having like a meal, I would have like a coffee or a hot chocolate or a milkshake, something that didn't cost as much money, but I still didn't want to miss out on that social opportunity. And if it was for dinner, I would just try and choose the most affordable food and have water as my side. So you can still definitely do these kinds of things, but you also need to set boundaries for your friends as well, because maybe they're doing the same thing as you. Maybe they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, keep up appearances, because they think that you won't like them as much if they don't have the same things as you. I think that it all comes down to being able to have that kind of conversation and say, hey, look, I'm on a really tight budget this fortnight, or I didn't get paid as much as what I had liked to. How about we go for a walk and grab a coffee? Or how about we, you know, head down to the park and we have a little picnic? Or how about you come over and we can make homemade pizzas? There's always ways around trying to do something expensive. And if it's something to do with holidays, so two of my friends, they have asked me multiple times to go over to Japan and the US. And on both occasions I've said no, mostly because my job won't allow it and I won't have enough money to do it. So even just flat out saying, no, I can't afford it, I think that really opens up the conversation to have with friends, and maybe they then rethink their own spending and budget habits too. So you need to be open and honest with friends, because they are your friends, they're gonna love you anyway. What's the best way to start investing? So there are two things that I would say. First is to determine why. Why do you want to invest? Is it because you want financial security? Is it because you want to retire a little bit early? Is it because you find it really interesting and you want to give it a go? Why? Like, what is it about investing that you want to get involved in? That's the first thing that you need to do to get involved in investing, is to determine your why and how you actually want to invest. So if you are looking at being a long-term investor and investing tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you need to be looking at those bigger investing platforms like Self-Wealth, CommSec, Pearl, I think is a big one. Like, you need to be looking into those three. And if you would just want to invest just to test it out, micro investing is such a fantastic way of doing so, with SPACESHIP, Sharesies, I think that's only in New Zealand, and Raise as well, just to dip your toes in and see how volatile the market really is, and see if you can afford to actually invest certain amounts of money every pay. The second thing I would recommend is to do your due diligence. God, that's the word, such a tongue twister. I'm not going to say research, because research involves, you know, like doing hundreds of hours of actually looking on websites and comparing and all that sort of stuff, which you would need to do. But you need to determine all the different kinds of things that you can invest in, if it's ETFs, LICs, individual shares, mutual bonds, all those kinds of things, and determine what actually works best for you, because you also need to understand your own investment strategy. So do you want stocks that will grow, or do you want stocks that will give you the biggest passive income so then you can live off that income? So you really do need to read a lot, watch a lot of YouTube. I would suggest like reading books, because they're backed by professional, or they're backed by financial planners, so you know that you're not going to get any misleading information. But you do need to do a lot of the reading yourself. Don't just take someone's word for it because they have told you. You need to have your own kind of understanding of why you want to invest, what you're going to invest in and how you're actually going to invest as well. Will you do a budget wedding? So Lewis and I have had a conversation. Obviously I'm not engaged, but Lewis and I, yes, we've had multiple conversations about weddings and engagements and all that sort of stuff, just to make sure that we are on the same page. And yes, to an extent. So I think the average wedding costs like $35,000, which is an absolute joke. Like, that is so much money for one day. And there's people that are going to be like, oh, but it's not one day, it's to celebrate your love and blah. It is a day. It's one day. You get to celebrate with friends and family, to share your love. Blah. Lewis and I, we don't value a wedding as much as we value a marriage. So for us personally, no, we will not be spending tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding if we ever get to that point. We have an idea of what we would like. It's also quite difficult as well because all of my family is here in Australia. However, all of Lewis's family is in New Zealand. So that also will affect the cost of our wedding as well. We will most likely just have a really chill ceremony with very minimal people attending. And then our reception is when we would invite a lot more people and have it a party rather than some sort of, sit down, eat event. We just want to have fun with everyone. It's been really hard 2 years. We would love to just party, drink, eat lots of food, be merry and be married, and just celebrate with friends and family. And I think for us, that's having a party. We don't like attention on ourselves too much. So we don't want to do the speeches. We don't want hundreds of people watching us while we share our vows. That's something that we really value with each other, that kind of stuff is shared super intimately with most likely just family and extremely close friends. So no, we will not be spending tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding. I would probably say the maximum, the real maximum that we would be spending on our wedding is about $10,000. And that would be going pretty much to a venue, food and alcohol. Everything else we can make ourselves. I don't need an expensive dress. Like, I don't need all that sort of stuff. But yeah, probably around $10,000. If you're lucky. Like, I would much rather lower than that, but I feel like $10,000 is being pretty generous. Tips for budget travel. So traveling is expensive. There's no real way around it. Depending on what kind of traveling you want to do. I love camping. I never thought that I would be a person that loves camping. I think staying domestic is a great way to save money because you can just get in your car and drive all around Australia. You can free camp, you can stay in hotels or hostels if you like to, or even motels, which are really affordable. Going to countries that will give you good value for money, so places like Vietnam, Bali, Thailand, all those kinds of places that are beautiful. Like, they are so pretty, and the people are so hospitable and so lovely, that you really do get your value for money. But if you are wanting to go to those places that are more expensive, like the UK, the US, anywhere in Europe, you're definitely going to be spending a lot more. And I think having a clear itinerary or a clear plan of what you want to do while you're there and the star rating in which you want to actually stay in. So for myself, this is going to sound, I don't know, like not conceited, but I don't know, materialistic, or I don't know, high maintenance maybe. When I travel, I like to stay in really nice places. Probably 4-star or 5-star places, purely because it's a holiday, it's a home away from home. I want to be comfortable, I want to feel safe, I want a bed that I can just lie into and get all comfy. I want all those luxuries that I can't have at home. So for myself personally, when I travel outside of Australia, I definitely stay in places that are of nicer value. But again, like if you go to places like Bali, you can stay at a 5-star resort and it's like $100 a night or $80 a night, and you get like breakfast included, cocktails are really cheap, all adventure stuff is really cheap, flights can be really cheap as well depending on the time of the year. You just need to do your due diligence and just have a bit of research, and go on Lonely Planet and it will tell you, I think it's lonelyplanet.com, and it'll tell you like the cheapest countries to travel to, the most expensive. Think about the kind of activities that you want to do while you're there. Think about the kind of food that you want to eat, because most of your money will go towards flights, accommodation and food. So yeah, just have a look and have a think about the countries that you want to visit, and read a lot about the places. get reviews, look at pictures, all those kinds of things. So the last question is best financial decision you've ever made. Learning about investing, definitely. Even though I don't have the income right now or the capacity to invest a lot of my money, I feel like having the knowledge about investing and the power that it can bring me and the financial security that it can bring me, that I feel is the most empowering and the best thing that I've ever done, is to learn about finances in depth, learn about the reasons why we should really care about our finances, learning about why we should be investing and saving and budgeting and doing all those kinds of things. The other thing as well that was the best financial decision I ever made was to cut up my credit card. Plain and simple, got rid of it. I paid it off. $5,500 took me, I think, 5 months to pay off because I didn't save a cent in those 5 months. I had a $1,000 emergency fund and that was it. And then every single pay for 5 months, everything that was left over, which was about $1,000, I put straight towards my credit card, paid it off within 5 months, cut it up, put it in the bin, and I would never, ever, ever get a credit card ever again. So that was definitely the best financial decision that I have ever made, apart from learning about investing, because it's so powerful. And I feel like I have so much more control over my finances now and the capacity to do great things with my money. Obviously, when I am in a better financial position to invest more money. But you know what they say, it's time in the market, not timing the market. So it's not a matter of how much you put in, but it's the consistency of actually putting in money into your investment portfolio. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you got to know me a little bit better, a bit about my history, my relationship, my finances, all those kinds of things. If you did like this video, please make sure that you do give it a big thumbs up, press that share button, subscribe, like, comment down below any of your questions that you'd like me to ask in another Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and I will see you in a video sometime in the very near future. Bye.
Nobody